Mobility and transportation are very important topics worldwide, with a huge scope for research and development. The German Aerospace Center, DLR, is engaged in a wide range of national and international research initiatives in this area. I am your host Paras Mehta, and today on India to Germany, we speak with Dr. Janki Dodiya about research in mobility and transportation at DLR. Janki is a senior research scientist at DLR and has extensive knowledge and experience in the areas of virtual reality, human-machine interaction, and mobility. She gives us an excellent overview of some of the ongoing research and career opportunities at DLR. Welcome, Janki. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you, Paras, and thank you very much for having me as well.
You're most welcome. So, Janki, you're working at DLR at the moment. DLR is the German Aerospace Center. It would be great if you could tell us a little bit about what they do.
So DLR in Deutsch is basically Deutsches Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt, and in English it is the German Aerospace Center, as you said it. It is the National Center for Aerospace, Energy, Transportation and Digitalization Research of Germany. It has multiple other locations throughout the Germany, and their headquarters is in Cologne. I am basically based at the site in Braunschweig in the Lower Saxony. And DLR is also engaged in wide range of research and development projects in national and international partnerships. They are also, they also act as the German Space Agency. They are responsible for planning and implementing the German space program on behalf of German federal government. And it's also a project management agency wherein it also coordinates and answers the technical and organizational implementation of projects which are funded by a number of German federal ministries.
All right. Okay. And since today we are talking about mobility, what does DLR do specifically in the area of mobility and transportation?
So with respect to mobility or transportation, DLR has various institutes working on different aspects of it. One is the Institute of Transportation Systems, where I work. There is also, for instance, other institutes such as Institute of Vehicle Concepts, Institute of Transport Research. Since we are talking about mobility, I know that there are some institutes within aerospace who I came across during some projects who are working on concepts of air taxis, for instance. But I'm sure there must be more, but these are a few that I'm aware of.
All right. Okay. Even air taxis. Yeah. Nice.
It was very interesting as well, the project. But I'm sure there are more. So the Institute of Transportation Systems at DLR, where I work, has various divisions on which they work, which is automotive, railway systems, public transport, and intramodality, as well as traffic management. And there are interdisciplinary teams of different technology fields that design, develop, and evaluate solutions for these divisions. So some of these technology fields are, for instance, vehicle function and development, data management, system architecture, human factors, testing and validation, and evaluation of traffic. So these are around 200 scientists or 230 that work here. And these scientists basically cooperate with partners and customers from economy, science, and politics on a national and international basis. And in that way, their work is also oriented both to current and future needs of the market.
Great.
So this is basically the structure of DLR and the technology fields that they deal into. They also have railway systems, which concentrate on development of innovative technologies, methods and concepts for operational, technical, economic optimization of the railway system in context of railway automation.
Okay.
And there is one more aspect, I think, which is quite important, is that, and I think it's important because I think that is DLR TS's probably, from my perspective, a significant contribution, that they have recognized the need for new testing approaches much earlier. So it has developed its own chain of tool set along with many virtual simulators and real testing facilities that can accommodate testing different aspects of transportation solutions individually or together. And the real testing part also includes various components such as research vehicles and vehicle platforms on the infrastructure side, also data collection and test facilities in the city of Braunschweig. In fact, very recent initiative by DLR in this direction, which is quite significant, is also Testfeld Niedersachsen. This lower Saxony test field includes sections of several freeways, but also part of other federal and state roads in Hanover region. This allows testing in different traffic situations and in the transition between different road types as well. A total of 280 kilometers of routes with a wide variety of technical equipments are available here, and there are a lot of small projects undergoing in this initiative.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they basically also test all this work in like real life situations through these simulations.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so in this like wide range of different topics that are covered within the institute, what is your focus?
So my expertise lies at basically at the intersection of virtual reality, HCI, or more specifically multimodal interaction, visualization, and computer graphics. So it's kind of a intersection of all these. And this is what I bring to all the institute that I worked at DLR. When I began at DLR TS it was around late 2015, I was part of the system architecture group. And here my duties were various mix, but mainly project management and business development. And this more so has been a transitory or introductory role from space to transportation. So I started at DLR TS which was a transitory role into system architecture. But after that, now I currently work in the human-machine interaction group. And as the name suggests, I've been working on various projects related to design of HMI for future autonomous cars, for different SAE levels, its evaluation using VR technology, which is an early part of the process before real site testing happens for these functions within the boundaries of these projects, of course. And I am interested in exploring VR technology in this area for basically VR for HCI design, and also from HMI design perspective, I'm interested in special users such as elderly and disabled. My duties in general at DLR, and this is important to know that research duties go beyond just research as well. So it was also ideation and acquisitions, project management, supervision of students, and also for some time it was business development, as I said when I started here.
Oh, that's very interesting. So it's kind of a combination of virtual reality, this human-machine interaction, and also mobility. So kind of all three aspects come together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Okay. And what are some of the important challenges and trends in this area?
In general, intelligent transportation and digitalization perhaps is what enables many new trends and challenges in the mobility sector right now. This would be at research and technological level, then there's industry, and then governance as well. And with governance, I mean both at local and regulatory parts of it. Most obvious trend is that of autonomous driving. The implementation of self-driving cars provides solutions to roadside accidents, traffic jams, and beyond that as well. But we still have some way to go to the perfect autonomous vehicle. So challenges lie ahead in technological solutions that enable smart decision-making, perception sensors, mapping, data analytics, management, and much more. But of course, eventually it has to guarantee safety for the human riders. And these challenges are in autonomous driving, but they are also multifaceted. It's not only the driving that may be automated, but many aspects of traffic management and infrastructure will go through similar overhaul. And in fact, it should, because it is crucial to successful deployment of these automated vehicles. So the intelligent transportation and communication technology would also allow, for example, vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to devices, and many more, forms of communication means. And this again also brings new possibilities for mobility services and business models that could be explored both in public and private sectors. A challenge with this large amount of data and mobility services at different layers of transportation is to ensure then the scalability and interoperability. So also data science and related fields also would become very important, I think. And I remember representing DLR in 2018 at an EU initiative that brought together several stakeholders from smart cities to work on various smart cities topics. And one aspect there was that where DLR also participated, was developing a reference architecture and standards. And I think it's important that industries then, adopt these as well.
Okay.
And then there is 5G, which will enable so many possibilities for bandwidth sensitive solutions and services that may not have happened before. And I know that DLR has recently started an initiative, which is 5G Real Labo, in this direction. And then there are some, what I mentioned at regulatory level as well, a lot of things will have to be looked into: licensing, monitoring of driving systems, liability issues, cybersecurity, information transparency, privacy, data protection. Oh, I could go on, but I think this is enough in general, I think.
Yeah. No, this is very interesting. Actually, these are all very, very important topics. I think. And so in your specific area of research in human-machine interaction and virtual reality, what are some of the current trends there?
I think from what I work, so from the human-machine interaction design, there is, of course, the first challenge is of designing HMI for different levels of SAE. And there is a need to understand what information, how much should be presented, for every automation level, because every automation level poses different cognitive and functional requirements for the users of vehicle. So it must be possible to clearly distinguish, whether a driverless system is being used or whether a driver holds accountability with an option of overruling the system. If it is non-driverless system, as I said, in different levels of SAE, then you have to have clear understanding of the responsibilities with whom it lies. These aspects, I think. Another important research gap that HMI group at DLR has identified is the communication of vehicle with other vulnerable road users. So this would include the bicyclist or, pedestrians and all the other cars as well. And then another aspect was HMI design for special users, which I mentioned earlier, which is elderly, if they have different needs, and they might have different needs. And another application that we identified was also very interesting was remote workspace for controlling and monitoring autonomous vehicles, whether it is automotive or railway or even future public transport solution. Because I know that I was with some of my colleagues and visited Hokpan, and I remember discussing this as well, that remote workspace to control physically buses, which are completely automated. So these are some aspects. Then there are these new technologies like augmented reality, which is a new form of presentation. Can that be used or not? There are no, from my knowledge, the guidelines for designing usable augmented reality is still minimal. It's still at early stage. So that has to be looked into as well. And that would be a challenge as well. And at regulatory level, there is a need to ensure standardization of HMI functions by the industry. So these are some aspects from HMI, basically. And
this is very interesting. Yeah. I mean, what you mentioned, for example, about the vehicle being able to communicate with the other vulnerable road users, or also this work with users with special needs. I mean, this is very interesting.
Yeah. And DLR actually had, coordinated one of a very, very big EU project called Interact. Maybe I can provide you a link later on something, but they worked on these aspects as well. So specifically pedestrians and bicyclists, and to understand their needs, how would they want to communicate with the automated vehicles. And yeah, it was very interesting. But when you look at all these challenges, so the final challenge among all these potential possibilities, whether it is new concepts in infrastructure planning for mobility or new mobility services or the automation function development or even the behavioral research, there is a need to investigate, test and validate them in a safe and efficient manner. So one of the very important aspect is the need for new testing approaches, combining real world and virtual simulation test, and respective regulations have to be developed for setting industry-wide standards to enhance the deployment of driverless technologies. It would be good to standardize testing approaches in this aspect as well. And virtual reality simulators has obviously been one of the top choices right now. They can be very useful here. VR definitely has come a long way since my first introduction in 2005. However, VR has its own issues and limitations as well still. For instance, there has been issues such as cyber sickness, when people are using it, or there are still perception-related challenges that also comes with each of the equipment as well. For example, distance perception sometimes is not completely, correct. Also, there is no one solution when choosing virtual reality hardware or software, or even strategies to interact within it, or even to decide how much realism, so different level of realism to achieve. It depends on the scenario and application. And there is a need to investigate the correct approaches for different applications. So there are indeed some basic guidelines developed over years, but I would not say they are complete. For instance, there is also a need for application-specific guidelines. So an investigation into identifying and applying right solutions to mobility is required. And at the same time, there is some basic research required to improve the limitations faced within the virtual reality technology as well. And there is also a need to research and develop scenario-based simulators. So what we were talking about earlier, for example, if we want to test bicyclists or any other forms of transportation, then we need to have these specific scenario-based simulators as well within mobility area. And VR technology itself is an amalgamation of cognitive sciences, computer science, and engineering sciences. And this basically also, that's why it's a challenge in itself as well to look into this. So it needs research in those aspects as well.
Okay.
These are basically all the aspects that I've come across while working at DLR, and DLR has been working on these things through various projects. I mean, I cannot list them all here, but the details can be found on the DLR TS website.
No, great. This is really a very good overview to a lot of different important trends and things that the institute is doing. I'm sure I will put the link also in the blog so people can go there and look further in detail.
Yeah, thank you.
So you have been, working in this field for a few years now already. You have a lot of experience. How did you actually get into this field in Germany?
So basically, I come from India. My parents come from a small city in India called Rajkot, and I've done all my schoolings in different places in India, and then I ended up in Vallabh Vidyanagar. Probably you are aware of it. I don't know. It's a Sardar Patel University, and they had the bachelor's program in computer application. So that's how computer science started for me.
All right.
And this was in 2002. And then I explored further several possibilities outside. So I did not want to get into generic computer application degree for master's. So I explored more possibilities in UK. And then I found some information from British Council in Ahmedabad. At that time, at least, they were providing these information. And then after that, that's how I arrived in UK. In UK, I did my network-centered computing master's and specialized in high-performance computing. And it was an intensive course, 6 months of modules and 6 months of internship. Then I did my internship in the field of virtual reality at Center of Virtual Environments at University of Salford. And there I investigated the usefulness of virtual reality for an aerospace application. And that's how basically my journey started in the field of VR.
Right.
In 2005, my master's course director at Reading, he liked my work that I did at Salford and offered me a full PhD scholarship. And that basically laid the path for my research career in the area of virtual reality. Coming to Germany was more like a stroke of luck or fate, if you may call it. It was not something I looked for actively at all in the beginning. One of my senior colleague from UK, who was then working at DLR, he invited me to apply to his group, which he was leading at the time, as they really needed an expert in 3D interaction in virtual environments. He had read my PhD thesis in past and he had quite liked it. So the position was basically a postdoctoral fellowship by DAD. So I don't know if you're aware, but DAD provides many master's, PhD, and postdoctoral fellowship opportunities. These you can find on DAD website, I'm sure. And I was quite fascinated when I heard about the application of that virtual reality will be applied in space sector, and I was inquisitive about it. And so I applied and I got selected, and that's how my journey in DLR and Germany both began. So I started my work in DLR Institute of Simulation and Software Technology, which was space sector. And then in 2015, I shifted to Institute of Transportation Systems. They were all from both institute, very, very interesting applications within virtual reality, or even, in general, lot of interesting work.
Oh, that sounds very nice. So yeah, you kind of moved to Germany by chance through this contact of yours.
In fact, it was not even planned to stay, I think, but I ended up staying as well.
Okay, and how long have you been here now?
Since 2012, I started my work here. So yeah, it's been 2012 to 2020 now.
All right. That's quite a long time already.
Yeah.
And what would you say, how is your experience here so far?
So it's been a mixed bag of experiences, just like, you would have at any other place you go. With respect to living, I love the rich cultural heritage in Europe, the art, architecture, even the clean cobblestone path in the centers of town. They are lovely. And Germany has nice mountains and forests to visit. Like many European countries, it's a good mixture of new and old ways, intersecting. The challenge is, of course, the language for people who come here. But I don't think it's end of the world. If you can't speak German, it doesn't mean that you can't work here or live here. But yeah, you definitely integrate better in society with language. And, there are some other aspects that we all see, like cleanliness, safety, and the majority of the people abide by the law. So this is basically a good living experience. Working has been great too, especially the content and the nature of the work at DLR. I think that is what has kept me here all the time, which has been absolutely enjoyable. I think it somehow matches my personality needs as well. I was always interested in doing work where I could see an positive impact in societal development or humanitarian or even artistic impact. And that's what I think DLR has given me. I'm by nature creative. It gives me, this space and freedom to be creative. It is challenging. There's constant learning going on with every project that I take, every role I take in DLR. And lots of ideation and innovation discussions with colleagues. They were fun as well. So yeah, overall, it has been great. I have also discovered many of my strengths, which I didn't know before, which is in management and leadership. I don't think 10 years back, Janki would have known that she could do this well as well. So in that way, it's been quite instrumental in my personal and professional growth both.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very good to know. Yeah, and so you moved here from the UK, is it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how would you say, is it very different was it a big shock for you or a big change for you to move to Germany from the UK?
Not a big one, I would say. I think when moving from India to UK probably was much more bigger than coming from UK to Germany, of course, because I've already met a lot of people from different countries in UK and worked with them and, interacted with them. But every country has similarities, but also difference. And this comes in general in terms of social culture, social norms, laws, beliefs, food, and also climate. So India is warmer and then UK and Germany. And then on the other hand, in Germany, I noticed more sun, even on, colder days compared to UK. Food wise, there's a shift. We come it's richer in India, the spices and everything. The food is richer. In UK, it was a little blander, and then I think in Germany it got even blander from my perspective, my own perspective. But I'm sure they have something interesting to eat as well. But yeah, these are some of the things. Then one of the aspects that I think, as a person coming from outside, was the difference that I noticed was when I was renting flats in UK. In Germany, I think compared to UK, there were much better process and regulations and rules, set out. So these were some living differences. But work-wise, the differences, I think it comes from the nature of the work, what I've done in UK and Germany. So in UK, it was more basic research, and the research work at DLR is more applied research. So there was even more freedom, I would say, in exploring and investigating in basic research compared to applied research. Of course, you get limited by domain, which you are working in. Its need, example, space and transportation that I've been working on. The social culture in both countries are slightly different too. UK is somewhat more indirect, seems politer, when you're being criticized as well. I think Germans are direct to the point, giving opinions, good and bad both. But I think because it's encouraged here, you're giving your opinion is encouraged in this culture, which is a good thing. And this sometimes in the beginning could seem rude to some people, which I have heard, but I value this honesty here, and it's never personal. I think that's what people don't understand sometimes, but I think once you live here, you start to understand this as well. Yeah, even in India, I mean, we were not encouraged to ask questions, at least in my time. Now it's definitely different in India as well. So the situation is different, but it is encouraged to ask questions, and which is a good thing. I think these are some of the things from top of my head, which I see the differences in UK and Germany.
Yeah, no, this is very true. Also, I can also identify myself with some of these things. So yeah, I totally agree with this as well. Yeah, and I think for the people who are listening to this podcast, I'm sure they are also interested in maybe asking and knowing your advice on if it's a good idea, for example, to have to follow a career in research in the field of mobility in Germany, or if you think there are some specific areas of research that they should focus on. What would you say?
So I definitely and highly encourage them. First of all, there is a need for exchange of ideas and solutions among countries, not just in mobility, but many fields. Also, the collaborations within mobility sector or smart cities in general would allow standardization and interoperability of solutions, not just nationally, but internationally, which is also important. Then there is a lot to exchange and learn from each other's social and working culture. It's good for your personal growth, basically. And most of all, there are a lot of opportunities, not just at DLR, but in industry and academia too within Germany. Germany has really opened up their doors. I think everybody should experience that. I think it's lovely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so, I mean, DLR is the National Space Agency for Germany. So it's a very prestigious employer and a very prestigious organization to work for. So I'm curious just to hear from you what it is like to work there.
Before I give insight into specific topics that I worked in, I think in general, what I could say about DLR, it has quite good policies for employees as well. So for instance, parental leave, or even preventing from overworking, because there are set hours that you should work. You should not go beyond that. And if you do go beyond that, then you have to take them as holidays, I think. But there are also limitations to these. There are a lot of skill development courses and exercises that goes on for students, PhDs and employees as well. And one of the things that I've noticed is also the fact that it has a flat hierarchy. So it's a flat hierarchy organization. So this reduces the chain of command kind of to some extent. And it gives more freedom and space to learn and develop. Especially, I think this is important for researchers. And you can be part of the decision process. And that is exciting probably for everyone as well. And all these, other benefits that come with a hierarchy like that, it comes with DLR as well. So with DLR TS, I've already mentioned it earlier, the work they do, the kind of applications there are. For aerospace and space, there are so many topics, but perhaps I can give an overview of the ones that I worked on, which are still very important and open topics. At DLR SC, which is the Space Institute that I worked on, I was working on applications such as virtual on-orbit servicing. So basically, this was an application which was developed to train. It was a virtual reality environment. This was developed to train astronauts. And also, DLR was working with Robotics Institute of DLR on teleoperation, use of teleoperation, and using this virtual environment for the same purpose. I brought my expertise on multimodal interaction in virtual environments here, and also supported and supervised a PhD student and master student. So this was a part of postdoc, which I started.
Okay.
Then after that, I was also lead developer and managed a project in the application area of disaster management, which is something that I'm very passionate about as well. And I was lucky to have come across this application both at TS and so in transportation as well as in space. I also led an acquisition and later also joined the head for management and coordination of a really interesting project related to Mars terrain visualization. This was just before I moved to transportation systems. Basically, several stakeholders in space domain and also some universities came together to create a distributed systems where virtual reality and other technologies can be used for collaborative mission planning and scientific research of the data that is acquired during these space missions. So it was, I think, one of a very interesting project that I came across. And even the disaster management was about terrain visualization within the space sector where I was working. So terrain visualization and scientific visualization is also a topic, open topic in space domain, I think. So that might be interesting for people.
Yeah, this sounds actually very nice. I have to say, it sounds very interesting. Personally, for me also, sort of from a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Also, we had a lot of data from Mars, and to look into it virtual. You fly around it, basically virtual Mars. It was very exciting, and there were so many intelligent people who came together to build that.
Great! Wow, very nice. And perhaps, Janki, you could also tell us a little bit about some of the opportunities for people who are looking to work at DLR.
Mm-hmm. So apart from researcher position in a specific area like me, there are also other opportunities, for instance, within IT support. So it's a huge organization, so it has a lot of IT support needs. So you can be a technical developer, programmer, engineer, business development as well. Project management and administration. DLR itself is a project management agency I mentioned earlier as well. So you can also look into that as a career path. Students are constantly coming to DLR for the internships, and for thesis, there are also postdoctoral opportunities, which, like, for example, what I did, there's a really good PhD support program at DLR as well. And I know I have so many colleagues who are working and doing PhD at DLR. They're doing both together.
Great.
Yeah. And apart from that, I think as a researcher, it does not limit you to just, the projects that you're doing. So I was also teaching for 2 universities at Hamburg and Oldenburg. And one of the opportunities was given by my boss because I was interested in teaching. There's also like so many other places that I have represented DLR in conferences in various roles. And so basically, there's a lot of freedom to develop your experience as well in that way. And it does not limit you just to, you are a researcher and working on a project and just do that. No, it's not that. As you get your work on various roles, even as a researcher, you develop skills in so many directions and you have an opportunity to go in many directions as well. So industry, academia, you can also look for professor. I know there's a role of DLR professorship as well. I don't know the details of it, but I know that there is one as well. But even in university, you can go, or even to other research organizations. So it opens doors to many places further as well. This is what I think from my personal experience.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So there are a lot of different opportunities for different levels in the career, it seems.
Yeah.
That's great. And what would be your suggestions for people who are looking to work at DLR?
With respect to technology fields in DLRTS, I mean, that I've been working on, I've listed them in my introduction earlier as well. But just to give names again, so there's artificial intelligence, virtual reality, sensor technology, data science, system architecture, HMI, virtual human factors, and there's still more, I'm sure. You can check the DLR website to get the information about the current and future projects and facilities, because when you study them, you'll start getting an idea of what you could do there as well. So there are a lot of projects there, and I think you can have a look at it. It's all there. The current project would give you an idea of these technologies that DLRTS is engaged in, and this applies to other domains too. So I have named only few places where I've worked, but it's a huge organization and at various cities. So yeah, I think you can have a look. Job site, DLR job site is the place where you should go if you want to look for the opportunities, because starting from masters or bachelors or internships, every single opening is mentioned there. So that is the best place to go to.
Okay, yeah, I will add a link also.
I'll give you the
along
link,
with this podcast episode and also with the blog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Janki, for sharing your knowledge and experience on this topic of mobility and transportation with us on this podcast.
You're welcome, Paras. It was my pleasure to talk to you as well. Thank you for having me here.
That's all, folks. Remember to subscribe to our podcast and check out our blog at indiatogermany.com. See you in the next episode.